A single human brain is probably the most complex object there is in the universe. An understanding of the brain, the mind, and perception helps us understand why we experience the world the way that we do. It helps us understand why we are the way we are, why we're not somebody else. It helps us understand how we remember things, how we learn things, and above all, it helps us not take ourselves or our worlds for granted. We're combining science with the arts for teachers and pupils across the UK to creatively explore the power of the human mind, providing free learning resources, CPD experiences for teachers, and the opportunities for schools to connect across the whole country. We're inviting children and young people across the UK to join together to explore the wonder of how they perceive and create the world around them.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Joyce, and I'm Programs Officer at A New Direction. We are a nonprofit dedicated to enhancing the capacity and agency of children and young people to own their creativity, shape culture, and achieve their creative potential. This is the last set of 3 webinars, which focuses on the theme of well-being and connection inspired by Dreamachine, the new 5-star reviewed immersive arts experience, which is open to the public now in Woolwich Works in London and at the Temple of Peace in Cardiff, and will also be open in Belfast and Edinburgh over the summer. Dreamachine has been commissioned as part of Unboxed Creativity in the UK, a once-in-a-lifetime celebration of creativity taking place across England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and online from March to October 2022. We will share links to book tickets to the live experience at the end of the event, and we'll share more info on the rest of the school program too. In this webinar, artist, creative practitioner, and Dreamachine Schools resource writer, Shermaine Slocombe, will demonstrate some of her activities for the health and well-being set of the Dreamachine lesson plans. She will also be joined in conversation with the 2018 Global Teacher Prize winner and artist in residence founder, Andrea Sethraku. Before we get started, I just want to go over a bit of housekeeping. So this event is webinar format. Your cameras and microphones are off, but please interact using the chat and add questions to the Q&A function. The Q&A function is the best way for us to find your questions, as they tend to get lost in the chat. And if you'd like to upvote certain questions, they'll move further up and will be more likely to get answered. We'll try our best to get through as many as we can. The webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website and the Dreamachine website after this event. And to access our live transcript of today's session, you can do so by clicking on the red live button on the top left corner of your screen, and then select the stream on custom live streaming, view stream on custom live streaming to open the Otter Live notes in a web browser. My colleague Marina will also make this link available in the chat for you to access. If you have any technical difficulties, please post it in the chat and myself or my colleague Marina will try to help. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be asking for your feedback. And if you haven't already, now is a really good time to go and grab some art materials if you can. So ideally some A4 paper, A3 paper, scissors, and glue. But if you just have pens and papers, that's fine, and you can join along with us. And with that, I'll hand it over to Marina, who will be talking a little bit about our Dreamachine resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. So our Dreamachine classroom resources were developed in partnership with UNICEF UK and British Science Association, and they fuse science with the arts to explore the power of the human mind, the brain, and the big questions of perception and consciousness, our sense of self, how we see the world, and how we connect with others. The 30 accredited and quality assured lesson plans span global citizenship, the world around us, health and well-being, personal development, the power of the brain, and perception and illusion. They were developed by former teachers with consultation from current classroom educators and scientists, written by a range of artists, creative practitioners, and science educators, aiming to complement the curricula for ages 5 to 13 across all 4 UK nations. And they take a child-led approach to exploring new ideas and making connections with a focus on developing collaboration, curiosity, critical reflection, and imagination. And so they expand on the wider themes of Dreamachine as the live experiences for adults. And today, Shermaine Slocombe, one of the writers, as Joyce introduced earlier, is going to go through some of the activities in her set, which is part of the PSHE strand, and that set's called Me and My Wellbeing. That's already online on the Dreamachine website, so some of you may have had a look already. If you haven't, I would encourage you to download them after this webinar. But Shermaine's going to go through some of the activities today and demonstrate them. And this set was actually reviewed by the Chartered College of Teaching, who recommend them as part of their commitment to building a teaching profession that centres well-being, which is our theme for this CPD series. So with that, I'll hand over to Shermaine and Andrea.
Great. Right, I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that. Brilliant. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this hot day. These wellbeing resources, they've been made in response to the Dreamachine programme and are linked to the PSHE curriculum of study, and of course are relevant to all the 4 nations as well. They are free to download, so do go ahead and have a look at them. They're kind of aimed at, like Marina said, 5 to 7, 7 to 11 age. And but Andrea's here today, who teaches in secondary, so will help us think about how we could adapt some of those as well for older students. And the sessions are that the lessons have been designed to be about an hour long, but they also could be taught in sort of smaller chunks as well. Or you might just like some of the activities that you think you're going to sort of shoehorn into some of your lessons to help focus your young people. So they've been designed really thinking about for pupils to explore their own uniqueness and their individuality, and of course work in teams and in pairs as well. Thinking about celebrating difference and thinking carefully about what values they place on what's important to them, what really matters to them. Certainly in the first lesson, they think about recognizing their own emotions, understanding emotions, and recognize how other people might be feeling and how they can explore sharing those feelings. To really, like I said, recognize what is special and unique about them, their personal qualities, their strengths, their interests, and hopefully all contributing to a sense of well-being. So these are designed for your pupils, of course, but I'm hoping tonight you might get something from them as well for your personal well-being. So do enjoy some of the exercises. I know Andrea's looking forward to some of the breathing that we're going to be doing in a bit. So I've taken some of the activities from the resource number 2, which is making a breathing space, and number 4, which is about drawing my feelings. So the first activity that we're going to do is really focusing on the art of breathing and how breath is affected by everything we do. And the aim really here is for your pupils to think about how to visualize their breath, but in doing so, really understand that breathing is a unique form of expression and self-awareness. And it's something we can all do. It's free. You know, we cannot always control what's going on in our world. We can't control what's, how our body is thinking. But despite breathing being an involuntary action, actually we can control it. So ideally, this would be done, I think, with your pupils in your class in a circle. You would ask students to stand in a circle, and you could do that around your chairs and tables in your classroom so you don't disrupt the space. Equally, you could do it standing, ask students to stand in front of their chairs or put their chairs under their desks. Or you could use a more practical space. I suppose the benefits of a circle activity, and we use that quite a lot in drama and movement, and I'm sure lots of you use it, but it is that sort of shared space. It's a safe kind of equal space, if you like, where everybody can talk and feel valued, their contributions are valued, but also they can move on and no one's sort of looking behind them at them. So that's a nice way to do this one. So if you're sitting down, that's absolutely fine. Just making sure that your shoulders are down, that you're feeling your back's nice and straight. But equally, if you are stood, and you can do this standing, we're not watching, no one's watching you. And just ensure that your feet are hip width apart, with both feet carrying equal weight, so that you feel grounded and anchored to the floor. And make sure, like I said, your shoulders are down, but your head feels lovely and lifted, like being pulled by a string from the ceiling. And just bring attention to your breathing. So you're just breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And if it helps, you could imagine that your feet are roots of a tree, so that you're really absorbing that energy coming up through the floor. And close your eyes if you haven't done so already. And just take a moment. Things will come into your head. You'll be thinking about what you're cooking later or how you're getting home. Just let those thoughts come in, but just breathe them out again. And again, really relax your shoulders and your face. And what you can do with students, and we'll do it together, is to breathe all together, because students will find this hard to do. They always find it hard to close their eyes. So we could breathe in for 4 counts. So we breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, and out 2, 3, 4. So you could repeat that.
Shermaine, do you have any like top tips when you have a giggly class? So just imagine they've just come out from playtime and they're just a bit still buzzing around the room. What techniques and what would you share with us?
Yeah, I think this can really help actually, and the next activity will help that sort of giggly group, I think. But keep persevering with it. Students find it really hard to stand and close their eyes. They always keep looking around. But that's why I think the circle is a really useful space for that. But I think you've just got to keep going. When they realize that actually it's a really useful technique, I would say just keep trying. And you can do other games to focus, games like send a clap around a space or something like that, so that you're really focusing them on the moment and they're not thinking about what they just had for lunch or what happened at playtime or whatever it might be. Okay. And I think it's really important for us to think about that the in breath really does energize our bodies, and the out breath really relaxes us. So if you're feeling tired, focus on that in breath. And if you're feeling slightly nervous or anxious, focus on that out breath. When you own your own breath, you create that personal breathing space, and it is a self-care technique. And by altering and changing the rhythm of our breath and our breathing, we can control our mind and how we're feeling, and you could do this in the car park or in the staff room yourself. It's one to try. And I think just doing it, the breathing in all together, really helps. And you could also try different activities like breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, and then really trying to expel that air for 8 counts as well. And that's quite tricky, but it's really essential that they're filling up their bellies with that breath.
In with the good and out with the yuck. That's what I just made notes on. So the yucky stuff gets out because you're breathing it away. Love it.
Yeah. And of course, when students know the benefits of it, that really helps them to see the purpose of it. And it is essential that we make time for ourselves, isn't it? We're all so busy. We're all full to the brim, aren't we? And we need to kind of recognize our stress, because as I've learned through doing this project, stress remains trapped and buzzing in our system. So it's really important that we do release it. And you can do that in many different ways. For me, it's always moving and dancing, but actually breathing can really help as well. And it isn't self-indulgent. I think we can feel a bit guilty about that, of thinking about ourselves. But of course, if we don't look after ourselves, and it can affect our interaction with other people. And also it stops us from noticing, appreciating, which are lots of the activities that these lessons really evoke. And though there's the learning outcomes there, just so that you can see that was what we were working towards. So the next activity, take a piece of paper, take an A4 or A3, whatever you've got in front of you. And again, I want you to sit comfortably. Yeah, it's not standing this time, you can sit. And take a pen or pencil, whatever you've got in front of you. Again, it doesn't matter. And ideally have it in front of you, and because you're going to draw with your eyes closed. So just make sure you're not sort of going to start tipping over a bottle of water or something. And again, relax into that breathing. And if you can, close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, start to take that pencil for a walk on the page as you breathe. And there is no right or wrong way to do this. Just relax into that feeling of breathing and moving your pencil. I find actually that students love doing this activity, and it really helps to focus them, especially after that frenetic playtime or after lunch, whatever. And I do it in a lot of my workshops. And sometimes students will, you may want to demonstrate it first, because sometimes students think they have to draw something recognizable. And actually it's just knowing that you are allowed to draw. And you might end up with some sort of looped drawings. You might end up with some more jagged drawings. It's absolutely fine.
So what are we drawing? We're just drawing the way we're feeling our breathing is taking place, right?
That's right.
Good Lord, God knows what I'm just making now.
If you're brave enough, you could hold it up, Andrew.
I will. Oh my gosh, I've just opened my eyes. Okay, well, it's very appropriate to how my day has been so far.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I use those sorts of things for, like, they can become floor patterns for movement, or they become things to trace later on. So I use that technique a lot, but it actually does really work to kind of bring that class as well.
And I suppose this could really help just to kind of help students become a little bit more confident in using material and controlling materials as well. So, and what do you think? Should we just give them pencils? Should we give them, what other materials would you suggest that we start off with?
Yeah, I think a pen or a pencil. In this activity, in the photograph, there are actually two students working on the same piece of paper with different colored pens, so you could try that. There is another drawing activity in one of the sessions, which is about drawing to music, and again, that's quite freeing for mark making, which is where we're going to lead to soon. So I think you could try it in different materials actually. But I think it's not about so much about what the final outcome looks like. It's more about the process for them with their eyes closed. It's not about producing that lovely piece of artwork. Do you know what I mean? It's the process. So
let's hold back on the paints, guys. Hold back on the paints for this one, just in case.
That's right. So the next activity we're going to do all together. So take a piece of A3 paper. You could use the back of the one you've just used or another one, and just kind of make 6 boxes on your sheet. You could fold it, or just, again, they don't need to be straight lines. And this is a template that you could then provide for your pupils in advance of the lesson. But this is kind of warming us up to thinking about mark making. And this activity focuses on pupils sharing their thoughts and feelings and ideas around mark making, but as a visual language. So it's about kind of, what do you see when you close your eyes? What does the sound of your beating heart look like? Or how can you express that joy of a hug, for instance? I think many of us were deprived of hugging, weren't we, during the pandemic? And so I'm sure that's where that came from for me. But so that's what we're kind of working towards. And I'm hoping that this activity would help your pupils to be in the moment, to notice and reflect a little bit, and to maybe see a different perspective as well when they see other people's outcomes. So we're going to do a series of drawing challenges next in those 6 boxes to make your thinking visible, and so that you can reflect on some of the images and that carry essence of meaning, really. Again, these were the learning outcomes for this. We are now in the drawing my feelings lesson now. So we're going to do the same, but to warm them up, what I would suggest is that you do a series of challenges first. like draw patterns in a classroom. It might be or outside, like cracks in the pavement or patterns on books or whatever. And then the next 6 images would be much more transient images like clouds or shadows or reflected light, etc. And these may be more challenging. And so you might prefer to offer some prompt images on a whiteboard, which is what we're going to do today. So the first little activity I'm going to give you a minute to do this. I'm going to set my clock.
So Shermaine,
yes.
Did you say that it's a good idea to model this? So we should demonstrate, do you think?
Yeah, I think you could demonstrate. Certainly with the breathing one, it might be quite interesting to demonstrate that. And you might want to demonstrate, certainly if you're thinking about mark making, you might want to demonstrate some cross hatching or shadows. It's not about drawing the whole image. It's about taking a slight section of it or finding the essence of it or just looking at the cracks. And that it will take practice, and so the lesson takes you through a couple of activities to get to the point that we'll get to today. But yeah, you could certainly model it. And this is where you might want to start thinking about introducing different materials like some charcoal or crayons, or depending on your subject and or where you're using this lesson. But certainly I think it could be a nice sort of warm up for your art students, Andrew, as well. So grab your piece of pencil. This is in one of your boxes. It doesn't matter which box, whichever of your 6 boxes. I'm going to give you a minute now to start drawing just whatever you want to draw from that image in your little box. You might like to focus on the shading areas or the cracks, or you might quite like how it's horizontal. It's whatever comes to your mind.
Okay, where are we with time? Because I'm going in.
About halfway through that first minute.
It runs so quickly, doesn't it?
And you could obviously choose how long you give your students to do it, but it's really about them not, we know they sort of really focus on the detail and get so sort of caught up in it. It's just about being quite free with it.
And one tip of advice, guys, remove the rubbers from the tables and their pencil cases. They've got no time to rub out.
Brilliant. 5 seconds. Okay.
Look at me, I'm adding tone. Boom.
Oh, wonderful. Right. If you want to hold them up, Andrew, there's no pressure.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm brave. I'm there. All right, there you go, guys. There's mine.
Lovely. That's great. Yeah. Okay, the next one, we're going to do the same thing in the second box. So there's just some pine cones here. I'm going to press start. Everyone ready? Pens down and go. And of course, you could do this from real objects if you had them in your classroom, or you could ask your pupils to go outside and find their own patterns in things. It's really about finding those patterns rather than worrying about drawing every detail of that pine cone.
Well, in my school, going outside is just concrete. So yeah, we're going to have to look really hard to find patterns in my playground. Yeah. But oh God, I love a good old cone. Look at that, gorgeous.
20 seconds left.
Oh.
10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, show us that one.
No judging, we're not judging.
No judging.
We're all together in this one.
I'm going to show you mine afterwards. Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, I like that. That's better than mine.
It's like a flower. More like a flower than a cone, but there you go. Awesome. What's next? Oh, fantastic.
Okay. So we've got some clouds. Now, this is where we would, you'd ideally prefer to move on to something a bit more transient, like I was saying, and clouds. And of course, clouds are really, beautiful. They're restless, changeable, aren't they? They're actually really hard to draw. But if you prefer, and if you've got a window, if you want to have a look outside, go for it. If not, you can just use what's on the screen in front of you.
Not go outside because we don't want to lose you.
Yes, only if you've got a view. Yeah, only if you've got a view out of your window. But
right.
I'm gonna press start now. So you're in your third box, aren't we already?
Right. And we're going. God, I forgot how hard it is to draw clouds.
Yeah, they're really hard, but so beautiful. Halfway through. Okay, we're into our last 10 seconds now. Okay, lovely. How did you get on, Andrea?
Well, I'm not sure. I think Karen's on the chat. She's been drawing trees and having fun there.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that was my one.
Lovely. Right, so this would be another one, but I think I'm going to move on because you get the idea, don't you? You know, I quite like looking into the swimming pool. I'm thinking about my holiday already. But the next one I'm going to give you, you've got, this is now where it gets a little bit kind of bit more abstract. I want you to think about drawing an emotion. You know, you can choose from this list. You might want to sort of redraw bits of your breath that you really liked from your breath drawing. You might want to sort of draw what you think a hug feels like, or how frustration feels, whatever it might be for you. It's much more about drawing your feeling. And again, connect the movement of your hand with the emotion. You know, like our emotions, the rhythm of our self is not fixed. They're constantly changing. We are not our emotions, folks. So how it might look today might feel different tomorrow, and that's absolutely fine. So pick one of those.
Are we closing our eyes? Are we closing our eyes?
Yeah, if that helps you, I think it does. Close your eyes. If you can pick one of those, you equally, if you've got one of your own, that's absolutely fine. There are no rules here. I'm going to give you a minute again to draw one of those. This one is harder. I realize that. Okay, 20 seconds left. Okay, into our last 10 seconds. 2, 1, and cancel. Great. So which one did you pick, Andrea?
Well, because I'm slightly divergent, I decided to you know, the float, when you close your eyes and you've got those floaters that just kind of decide to move around. That's my purple drawing.
Oh, lovely.
That's what I saw. So pretty. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Great. Well, I know we didn't do all of them, but you know, essentially you could have ended up with 6 different. I was thinking at frustration, I think, in one of mine, but you know, you would end up with 6. And if you were to follow the lessons, you would have sort of a series of these. And you know, I'm kind of feeling like it would be lovely to sort of keep almost a diary of the patterns of some of these things, to see that how these sort of the forever changing self does change, and any patterns that might emerge. You know, it's not about creating these perfect outcomes. You know, it's about experimenting, allowing yourself to fail and your image to feel ridiculous. That's fine. You know, other ways you could do it, you could provide objects in bags, so students have to close their eyes and just draw with touching something. That's another idea. They could also draw sounds like the wind or the sounds of trees moving. You might want to introduce some music into the room as well to sort of, you know, change the energy a little bit. And of course you could use different colored paper here, couldn't you, Andrea, as well, and mark making things on feathers, things on the end of brushes, you know, that kind of stuff, if you wanted to get really into that kind of.
And you know, I was just thinking that I've got a daughter who's in year 6, and I can just imagine her coming home and saying, right guys, we're all doing this. And so even if you want to set it as a homework to get the whole family to produce in, I think that's such a great idea, you know, great family activity, isn't it?
And there are a few extra things in the resources about going further and at home as well, about how you can do this with your family, and you know, so do look out for those as well.
It'll be quite exciting. Sorry to interrupt, but you know, I'm such a believer of avoiding. I mean, I'm not sure it tonight, but avoiding the white paper. So using other textures. So you know, brown paper that you can get, or packaging, or you know, I think that's really exciting for young people to explore as well.
Yeah, and for students with special educational needs, you might want to provide objects to hold and touch, and like you say, collage, and yes, don't use the white paper, you know, but yeah, and as teachers, you will know those strategies best for your pupils as well. So and then the idea is potentially that if every student sort of has these series, each table in the room could have a different theme. So this table's the hugs, that table's what you see when you close your eyes, this table's the emotions, whatever. And everyone cuts up their work and then gives it to the appropriate table, and it's up to the table to sort of make a collaborative landscape, if you like, where they could be displayed in your classroom to acknowledge some of the emotions and how they feel. So those are kind of ways that you could, you know, take that a little bit further. Another idea in the when I added some tracing paper here, I love overlaying and finding things that you really like from somebody else's or your own, and sort of adding it on top and layering. So, you know, you could add in collage here also, you know, these are just sort of starting points really for you to fly. And going back to the patterns, I think this was my swimming pool drawing. So this is like a kaleidoscopic technique, and of course there are lots of apps and things that you can use, and there are some examples in the pack as well. So I would have had my original here, and then I would have drawn its reflection in the 2 boxes that you can see here, and then I would have repeated the section 4 times, and so on. So it's just a nice way to generate those patterns, constantly thinking back to Dreamachine, and they just came from drawing a swimming pool. You know, that's all it came from. And of course you could use these to color them in as a mindfulness activity if you wanted. Yeah, so
I see, you know, automatically in my head, I'm like, right, we're going to do a mono printing project, or a polystyrene printing project, or we're going to get some string and paint it and try and create the same patterns. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Shermaine, I'm buzzing. Thank you. Thank you. Gosh, there's the energy. You see, excellent. It works. It works. Energy's there.
Great. So I thought we'd just end my session with a little sort of visualization, everybody. So just to, again, this is quite a nice way for your students to focus. So again, you can stand or sit, it's totally up to you. Same thing applies, just standing hip width apart or sitting comfortably, and just feel being lifted again. Close your eyes, relax your face, and repeat breathing. But this time, imagine your breath as water. Imagine it's like overflowing river, and it's flowing up and down your body. Watch the shape of the water move and change. Allow the water to move to every part of your body, from your feet to your legs, into your torso, into your head, and your arms and your fingers. You could do this really lovely and slowly at the end of the session. Imagine that the tide is rising and overflowing, and let it wash all over you. You are in constant motion and changing all the time with hidden depths. Just let it empty your mind and let the sunshine enter. There you go. And open your eyes, everybody. Thank you.
That was lovely. I was moving on that one. I felt myself moving. Thank you, Shermaine.
There is actually one question in there, which is about any thoughts on how to use this in secondary English. So relating some of that to your English lessons, maybe.
Well, definitely linking it to some of the texts you're looking at, and storytelling and characters and their emotions and what they might be feeling. That's what springs to my mind. I don't know if you're thinking anything else, Andrea.
Yeah, it's just like the words. So drip, just some key words that come out. What will they sound like? Words which they probably don't know. What does it mean? Draw it. Is it an angry word? What does it sound like? I think there's so much there for it. Great idea. Lots of creativity in English as well. So great opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And one of it's aimed at younger students, but they're sort of looking at your emotion and your faces and facial expressions, but then linking that into their character, building characters and acting out some of the characters within those stories as well. Could be quite useful for students.
There is another question about adapting the activity to 16 to 26-year-olds. So is there anything you would do slightly differently about any of the activities you've talked about today?
Do you know, I actually do this with all age groups and adults alike. I think that's the beauty of a lot of it. Depending on what the sessions are, whether it's a longer sort of summer project, you know, you could really develop some of these ideas into movement and drama and techniques, or big drawings, getting them to sort of draw using their whole bodies, not just their hands, you know. But yeah, you could develop some of these activities and give each other ask others to create challenges for each other. I think would be really lovely. And I think all people don't like their work to be cut up, do they? And I think actually when you do it with young people, they're so shocked, but actually it's a real revelation afterwards as well. So they're not so too precious about things. I think that really helps.
I actually have a question. Oh, sorry, Andrea, to interrupt. I was wondering what you said earlier, Andrea, about, you know, giggly students. And I was thinking, in my experience, when I was a teacher in art, a lot of my students didn't feel confident about drawing. So I wondered if either of you, Shermaine or Andrea, had any tips for what you say to students who are sort of saying, oh, I can't draw, or then when they've drawn something, it's quite abstract, feeling like it's not very good, and what you can say to encourage them.
But I think when you're drawing with your eyes closed, you know, that's the whole point. That's the kind of starting point, so that people are not thinking about what they're drawing. You know, sometimes kids will, and that's why it's quite nice to model that activity on the board of just drawing to the breath and drawing to music. Again, there's a lovely activity in there where you draw with a partner, so you'll start to draw and then your partner takes over. Or you share drawing, so you draw something and hand it to the next person and then somebody else draws on top of it, and you know, so it's not about your perfect work, if that makes sense.
I love that. There's the sense of collaboration, having a collaborative piece of work. We're very often in schools, we get our students to work on by themselves on their own, but this is a great idea. And just to add to some of those techniques, Marina, what I find is other hand, so drawing with your other hand as well as eyes closed, so that just everyone creates chaotic work when they're drawing with their other hand. It's the first time they probably used it for years with a pencil, so something like that could work as well.
Okay, and we've got one last question here about for children with ASD, is because obviously that abstract notion can be quite difficult to get to grasp. So is there any way of adapting that, or is it partly about letting go of the notion that it has to be this perfect representation of feeling?
Yeah, I think it is about the letting go, but equally you could do it through objects as well, about collecting objects. I don't know about you, but I've blurred out my background, but I have so many things in my room that stimulate or inspire me, whether it's an image or an object or a smell. Again, using our senses really help us to sort of calm down and enable us to focus and just focus on the thing that we're doing. So I would really advise on having objects and things that they could touch or handle or have around. And we all have photos on our desk, that we all, you know, we all have our thing that we have. And I've realized that I have a lot of stuff around me, but it really helps me just to, if I need that moment to like reflect or think, I can just look at it and it sort of calms me down, I think. I don't know if that helps.
And another maybe could be just to showcase artists who do use marks in their work. So Kandinsky and Van Gogh, you know, how they use marks in a very different way, and I think that will help make the link as well, perhaps. Yeah.
And some of these activities are about creating patterns, aren't they? And finding even just drawing one line, and then what happens when you mirror that? You know, you could bring in mirrors, you could do it through apps. What happens when you just mirror those shapes, and it can grow and grow, and that's really nice then to maybe do a class group piece so that everybody adds to that, but everyone's work is reflected in some way and it can change and develop.
And kind of modeling that reflecting as you're doing it, so they can think about what they're internally doing. There's lots of people a couple of people in the chat talking about how they've enjoyed and also how they've tried out drawing with your eyes closed or blind portrait drawing, which I think is that you're not looking at the paper but you might be looking at each other. Which sound like brilliant ideas.
And not taking your pen off the page as well, so one continuous line, which is really hard, but it's a great technique to help loosen up pupils.
Do you know, I do this quite often in my classrooms, just as a warm-up and as a let go. So I think there's not a month that we don't do. I just call them blind drawing techniques, and they're so good. It just creates a nice environment to start off a brand new project with.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both so much. I was just going to wrap up by saying what we at A New Direction are doing. So we are an award-winning not-for-profit organisation. We generate opportunities for children and young people to develop their creativity. We have on our website lots of free school teaching resources, free training and CPD. We have a lot of links to the cultural sector and arts education office, and we also support schools that are working with Arts and Arts Award. We actually have this amazing festival next week, which is partly online and also for the first time since the pandemic in person as well, which we're really excited about, the I Am Festival. So you can find out about all of that on our website. The Dreamachine Schools programme, which we have been developing, has 30 lesson plans, which includes the activities that Shermaine was talking about today. So that includes things around PSHE and children's wellbeing, science and the power of the brain and perception and illusion, and also global citizenship. Those are related to the UNICEF UK's Rights of Respected Schools programme. The science resources were developed with the British Science Association. So if you are working on Crest Board, they're really helpful for you as well. They're all linked to the curricula of all 4 nations of the UK, and they're all free to download, which is always crucial. And then we also have these webinars, and so these will be available on our website, on the Dreamachine website soon. And then finally, there's this brilliant activity which is called Life's Big Questions. You don't need to do any prep for these. It's a nationwide children's survey, and there are little videos you can show your class, and they're interactive, lots of fun questions, and they're posed by Martin Duggan, who's from Newsround. It has started, but it's definitely not too late to join in, and the first 500 schools to take part and register get an opportunity to win in-school experiences for their students. And it's thinking through the brain and our senses and so on, and so it really gets children thinking. So thank you very much, and we'll just finish up with showing you this. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, we have an evaluation form. It always genuinely really helps us with our events. Please do take a minute to fill that in as well, and we'll put that in the follow-up email we send you as well. So we'll just finish up with the video. Thank you, everyone.
Don't you ever just think minds and our brains are pure magic? Our senses? Wow, I mean, those wee superpowers are just incredible. Join me, Martin Duggan, for 5 interactive sessions to ask life's big questions and explore how our brain and senses work together to help us understand the world around us. Why don't you get involved in your class or with children at home? You'll only be taking part in one of the biggest children's surveys of the senses ever conducted. Get ready for jaw-dropping illusions, mind-boggling challenges and exciting investigations for this extraordinary journey into the human brain. This is Life's Big Questions. Register your email to sign up today to make sure you don't miss out.